time for our next presentation, and I want to introduce Howard Stein. He's the owner-operator of Home Helpers. And, you know, just like a word, because, you know, I'm looking at your sign there, and I know a lot of times we think of Home Helpers as something only for seniors, and I think that is how most people think of it. But if you just look up there, new moms, maybe one of your kids recently had a baby, and it's really tough to be by yourself, or even, you know, you could be 40 years old, you come home from the hospital, you just need a little bit of extra help. So I feel like it's important to realize this is not a service only for senior citizens, all right? So let's say hello to Howard.
Thank you so much, Andrea. I think Andrea could actually do my presentation. She did that so awesome. You know, the first thing that I wanted to just kind of share with you before we get into the agenda is, why is this so important? Why is a community event like this so important when we have wonderful resources like SCAN bringing us all together? And the reason is, it's how we get to know each other. It's a relationship, right? We want to have that relationship with the community. We want to participate in the community. We want to participate with our business partners like Beth and Beth from Willow Springs, and our Care One, and Tony from Bartley, right? That actually matters. So these relationships that we build when we're in a setting like this is really important. So I think I think that SCAN provides a really important avenue for a small business like me to be able to come in and talk to you, and we thank you for that, SCAN. So how about a round of applause for SCAN, right? Don't they do a great job? Thank you so much, guys. So this is my agenda. I want to tell you a little bit about myself, because this is about that relationship that I was just telling you about. I want to tell you about Home Helpers, and then I want to go over a few important things that I think will help you make informed decisions, okay, if you ever need home care. I also want to talk a little bit about our veterans, which is very near and dear to me. And then I also want to talk about the topic of driving, and especially for our seniors, right? Because that's always a tough conversation to have, and I think it's worthwhile to spend a little bit of time on that. So first about myself. My name is Howard Stein. I grew up in Brooklyn, okay? I moved out here when I had my second child, and we've been out here for about 15 years. I live in Monmouth County, so I'm also a Monmouth County guy, right? And, but, you know, the important thing that I want you to know about me is, why did I get in home care, right? Why did I choose home care as a business? And there's a little story behind it, right? So when I was a young man, I saw my uncle, who was very near and dear to me, go through the whole dementia, right? From start to finish, and I saw that happen before my eyes. And that was very impactful to me, because I love them so much, and they took care of me as a young man. And seeing that happen, I didn't really fully understand what it meant, but I knew that something was wrong and he needed to have that special care, and that left a lasting impact to me. As I got a little bit older, I saw a similar thing happen to my grandparents, okay? And again, it was going through that cycle, seeing that loss of that person, even though they were still there, but we couldn't communicate the same way, and they weren't the same person, knowing that this was a serious disease that took that person away from me. Much later in life, after I got married, my wife's grandmother, who lived to 97, wound up needing some in-home care, okay? And it started with a few hours a day, but that caregiver gave my wife's grandmother some of the best care that I've ever seen a caregiver provide to a non-family member. And I was like, that's how it should be done. I was old and I was actually working in healthcare at the time, and I said to myself, that's how it should be done. And when the time came for me to make a decision about my career and what I wanted to do with, the next chapter of my life, I was like, I want to provide that type of care the way my wife's grandmother got it to my community. I wanted to bring that here. And that's really what drove me to Home Helpers. And I'll tell you a little bit about Home Helpers, okay? We are an accredited organization, okay? So we work through health care accreditation. We are licensed under the Department of Nursing, right? So, when you talk about the health department, right, as an overseeing body, we have similar oversight from our accrediting body and from the Department of Nursing. We have a director of nursing that supervises all of our aides, right? And that is critical to the type of care that we provide. Me, as the owner-operator, I know every one of my families because I'm involved. I visit. I say hello. I come on Thanksgiving. I come on Christmas, the holidays, right? Because, again, it's about that relationship with that family. Home Helpers has been in business for 25 years. Okay, we're a national franchise. My office is in Freehold, New Jersey. There's 8 Home Helpers that service the New Jersey area, and there's actually an office in the Lakewood area that services the Ocean County area. So if you wouldn't be dealing with me, you'd be dealing with the Ocean County office, the Toms River office if you needed that help. A few other things that I wanted to tell you about my office, Home Helpers. We received a number of awards last year because of the way that we provide care. When you actually take that time to engage with the families, to assess those goals, to understand what those goals are, and then work with really good community partners and providers, you can have exceptional outcomes. And that's what we've actually managed to do, and we've been recognized for that. The last thing I'll tell you about Home Helpers is that we have wonderful reviews, and I invite everyone to go take a look at that and see what the families that we serve actually said about us. Okay? What does a home health agency actually do? You'd be surprised, I often get this question, right? What could you do for me? What could you do for mom? And we can do basically many things in the non-medical world, right? So what does that mean? Primarily personal care, so showering, toileting, things like that are usually the critical thing that we provide in the house. But it could also be something as simple as companionship. Mom doesn't want to leave the house, but she needs someone to come and visit her. Maybe do a crossword puzzle, maybe play a game, card games, things like that. So companionship is also a part of it. Meal preparation, shopping, errands, doctors, visits, all of those things are in the scope of services of what an agency like mine can provide. We can also provide transportation, as long as that's in the context of a care plan, so a regular visit, right? We don't replace Uber, right? But if mom has an appointment and we have some service, we can provide that. When should you consider home care? And this is often a difficult challenge for families, right? First of all, you have to be willing to have that conversation. Often families don't really, maybe they don't want the help or aren't ready for the help, but we really have to talk about when is that time, time to bring someone into the house. And really there's 2 important timings, okay? One is when you are coming out of fully dependent and you need a little bit of help, a little bit of support, right? Maybe just bringing in the groceries has become too much, or going into the basement to do the laundry, right, is difficult because it's heavy, right? And that, the whole point about that is to being safe in the home, right? A fall could actually lead to a hospitalization and a whole host of other problems. One of the main things that we do when we're in the home is to make sure that our client is safe, okay? So that is so critical. So if you are going through some physical changes where you just don't have that strength or forgetfulness, those are signs that maybe it's time to bring someone into the house. When you're looking for in-home care, I wanted to, highlight a few things that are important to think about and to ask when you're actually talking to a home care agency. And the first question that I think is really important is how quickly can you get me someone? Because oftentimes we get called to a house, it's a crisis, right? And whether they're coming out of rehab right away, coming out of a facility and they need someone to be with them right away, how quickly can you do it? The accreditation question is really important. Are you an accredited agency? Are your caregivers insured? Not a question that you might think about, but like, for example, my agency, all of our caregivers are employees of our agency and therefore under our insurance, okay? God forbid something happens, you want to know that your caregiver who's in that home is actually insured. These are really important questions to ask. Do you run background checks on your caregivers? What happens if things don't work out? There's a whole host of questions that you want to ask your agency when you're actually selecting an agency. I think it's, that's one of the main reasons why I actually go out to meet families, because I want to be that front-facing voice and face that's going to interact with the families when we're discussing what that care is going to look like, right? Because if there's a problem and they need something, I want them to speak to me directly. That's why it's really important as an owner, and I consider myself an owner-operator, right? Because I'm out there, I know all my families, and they know me, and if they need something, they can call me. These are all really important things to know and familiarize yourself with when selecting a home care agency. Some additional things to consider. What happens if my needs change? And this is, this happens very often, right? We start out with a little bit of help. Later on, we need more help. Can I retain my caregiver, right? What is that, how will that impact the service that I'm being provided if I need more? Do you have to give me another caregiver? Am I going to have two people coming to my house? These are all important questions to ask. One other thing that I think I wanted to share with you is specific conditions, right? I mentioned dementia, right? So all of our caregivers get training in dementia, right? You could have a heart condition, maybe you're a stroke situation, right? So there's a lot of specific training that's required for any one specific condition, and that's why that conversation, the willingness to share information about care is so important when you're evaluating agencies and you're talking to someone about getting care. Do we have any veterans or spouses of veterans in the room? All right, thank you. Thank you for your service, much appreciated. So this is a topic that's really near and dear to my heart, and I wanted to kind of talk about this because one of the challenges of home care is the costs, right? And so particularly for our veterans, there are some really good options that sometimes people don't know about, okay? So I wanted to just spend a few minutes on that. There is an aid in attendance benefit for either a spouse or that veteran themselves. So spouse of the veteran or the veteran can get up to $2,400 a month for care. So if you aren't familiar with that program, please reach out to me. I can definitely help you with that. The other really important thing is VA health benefits, right? So if you're getting veteran health benefits, Home Helpers is actually a VA provider, okay? And that means that it's actually no out-of-pocket cost to get that in-home care for a veteran. And that is something that is so important to me, that we're able to provide that service with no out-of-pocket cost to our veterans. So we're really proud that we're able to do that. There are 2 other programs that are worth mentioning. One is if you're actually homebound, there is substantial assistance available for veterans that are homebound. That's a separate program. And then last but not least, we love to hire our veterans or spouses of veterans. So we're always looking to add to our staff. And if there's a veteran that's looking for a job, we want to train that person and get them into the working world. And that's why this is so important to us, because I think there are so many avenues that we can actually help our veterans, especially our aging ones. And then the last topic, and this is often a very difficult conversation. So when is it time to think about stopping driving for our seniors? Often this is a conversation that goes unhad, and then we get into a situation where, mom or dad is driving unsafe. We're nervous about them, but it's always a difficult conversation to have someone put down those keys. There's a few tools that are available to everyone for free. Okay, AAA has a great self-assessment that you can use. It's free, right online. You find it. It's a few questions. Okay, and that senior can evaluate themselves. But for us, a few things that I just want you to be cognizant of and aware of, things that could make driving very difficult for a senior. Okay? And the first thing is the obvious ones, vision. Right? When the vision goes, usually it's night vision that becomes difficult, so they're only doing day driving. But, vision is something that we want to closely monitor, as well as hearing. So hearing loss and loss of vision are things that we need to pay attention to when assessing whether or not our seniors can drive. Okay? Another important thing is neck mobility, right? So the ability to look over their shoulders so they can safely look both ways before proceeding through an intersection. Seems like a simple thing, but inevitably those become challenges as we get a little bit older, right? So the range of motion, muscle weakness, right? And fatigue, forgetfulness, confusion. These are all signs that, perhaps it's time to put down the keys. So I know that that is a really difficult conversation. We have resources to help in those conversations. And that's, again, coming back to how we started this conversation. It's about being a resource to the community. It's working with our community partners to ensure that the care is there. But at the end of the day, we want to be of help, right? We want to improve the quality of life. We want to make sure that our seniors are safe. So I hope you found this information useful, and I'm happy to take any questions if you have them. Appreciate that question. So the question is home care just daytime, or what are the hours that a service like this is available? So we provide as little as 3 hours a day. Okay, so and that could be 3 hours twice a week, or as much as 24 hours a day. And that could be provided 2 ways, either with a single person that actually lives in the home, or with multiple shifts. So we can have either 2 people on a 12-hour shift, or 3 people on an 8-hour shift, depending on what the situation and conditions are. Okay, thank you for your question. I know there was a question. Yeah, so the question is, can I expand upon what a live-in is? And there's a few important things about a live-in that make that type of care special. okay? A live-in is what it says. They come into your home, they have a room in your home, and they're going to be with you all the time. Now, this does take a little bit of getting used to. There's an adjustment period, right, for most families to get used to that type of support. The most important thing about a live-in is that they do require 8 hours of sleep a night, right? So you would only be a candidate for a live-in if you are sleeping through the night. So when we have a situation where someone has perhaps a dementia and they're getting up or they're wandering in the middle of the night, that would be more of, we would look for that 24/7 type of care as opposed to a live-in. But that's really the important distinction. A live-in is actually a very cost-effective way to get care if you need a significant amount of care and are fully dependent on someone to take care of you every day. Thank you for that question. I thought there might have been one more. Yes. So we are a private pay agency, okay? VA, yes, but we also take long-term care insurance, okay? That would be the only other means of payment. So that option is available as well. You're welcome. Any other questions? All right, well, I
think it's important for them to know too that paying privately is like a Medicare spend out method. So it counts with Medicare spend out. Whereas hiring somebody personally doesn't, it's considered giving.
Right, and so Tony was basically saying that if you're looking to get into a facility and you need a medical spend down, private pay agency that's an accredited agency would assist you in that spend down. Did I get that right, Tony?
Right. If you hire somebody personally, it's considered gift giving. It's a penalty for Medicaid.
Okay. So that's good. That was a good heads up. Thank you, Tony. Anything else? All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate your time today.